aid have broken through its blockade of the Palestinian territory. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has added that one vessel is still at a distance, and if it tries to approach, its attempt to enter the active combat zone and breach the blockade will be stopped. Meanwhile, world leaders have condemned Israel's interception. Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin has in fact described the flotilla as a humanitarian mission that poses no threat to anyone and has stated that the treatment of those on the flotilla is very important. Listen in.
I'm receiving briefings in terms of the interception of the Gaza Flotilla. Our ambassador is in touch with the Israeli authorities, and we will be providing consular assistance to those who have been detained. It's important that they're treated properly. It's a humanitarian mission, no threat to anybody other than to highlight and also to bring humanitarian aid into the people of Gaza. And it underlines the absolute imperative of getting humanitarian aid into Gaza as quickly as possible under the auspices of the United Nations and the Red Crescent, as outlined in the peace proposals that emanated from the United States in consultation with the Arab states. If it happened in international waters, yes. And also, again, the treatment of those on the flotilla is very important, that they're treated appropriately and properly. They don't pose a threat to anybody.
Earlier, Israeli forces intercepted 39 boats carrying aid and foreign activists to Gaza, leaving only one vessel still sailing towards the Palestinian territory. Meanwhile, Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre has highlighted that the mission underscores the urgent need for aid to reach Gaza. He stressed that assistance should be delivered through established channels such as the United Nations and well-trained organizations. Meanwhile, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has also praised the solidarity shown by Spanish society with the flotilla's aims and has confirmed that his government is in contact with Israel to ensure the protection of those who have now been detained. Take a look.
Well, it illustrates that we need to get desperate needed aid to Gaza. And I think the main thing here is to get in aid through the established channels and let the UN and the well-trained organizations distribute that aid. And then I just have to say that Israel should respect, international law and treat this in a cautious way.
Hemos estado en contacto permanente con ellos, como ha dicho el ministro de Exteriores Álvarez. También hemos trasladado al gobierno israelí el que es necesario que protejan los derechos de no solamente nuestros compatriotas, sino todos los integrantes de la flotilla.
Joining us on the broadcast is Mr. David K. Johnson. He is an American author, professor of criminal justice, journalism, law, and political science at Rochester Institute of Technology, joining us from New York. Thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Now, this is not the first time that Greta Thunberg and other such activists have been detained for doing so. She was in fact earlier sent back safe and sound on a chartered plane a couple of months back. But if we take a look at the aim of the flotilla, it is to ensure the transfer of humanitarian aid. There have been concerns that the United Nations has been pointing out as well regarding the dire situation on the ground. But in the meantime, Israel had in fact called for the flotilla to change its course and had offered to transfer aid through safe channels, including through the port of Cyprus as well. And they had pointed out that if the flotilla attempts to breach the blockade, they will be detained. At the same time, we've also seen a 20-point plan jointly floated by Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu that provides for humanitarian aid to be allowed into the Gaza Strip. Now, the ball is in Hamas's court. Do you think they will accept this plan?
No, Hamas is not going to do anything cooperative. But what you're seeing here with these ships is something the Israelis have been doing now for more than a quarter century. They have been interdicting anyone who is trying to bring aid or food. The Israeli government maintains that there have to be weapons of one kind or another to help Hamas. And their official statements, they call it the Hamas Sumud Flotilla. Sumud is a Palestinian term meaning resistance and prideful, and it uses as its symbol a pregnant woman or an olive tree. And the Israelis are, I have to say, not only being successful with the blockade, but they are doing an incredible job under Prime Minister Netanyahu of turning Israel into a pariah state. Governments from Malaysia to Ireland to Turkey, which is threatening to find some way to prosecute, that won't happen, but they're threatening, are all appalled by this action of the Israeli government that has been interdicting ships on the high seas. 75 miles out is not territorial waters. It's illegal conduct, and it's part of what we're seeing governments around the world do. Ignore well-established law to pursue whatever their short-term political goals are.
And what, in your assessment, could then lead to long-term peace in the Middle East?
There's not going to be long-term peace in the Middle East in my lifetime, or perhaps yours. The necessary element is regard for the other. And so long as either side has leaders, or in the case of Gaza, people who've been forced upon the people as leaders, you're going to have a lack of regard, and without regard for other people being your equal, being human beings, there's just not going to be any kind of settlement here. And these issues go back long before the creation of the Israeli state more than 75 years ago.
All right, so I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking further developments. With that, viewers, we shift our focus to more news coming in. Russia has now criticized the recent restoration of UN sanctions against Iran, calling the move illegal and driven by Western powers. The sanctions, including an arms embargo, were reinstated on 27 September through a process known as snapback, initiated by European countries. Russia now says that European actions bypassed UN Security Council requirements and have manipulated the system, making the UN the main victim. Moscow insists that the snapback mechanism cannot be considered complete and has warned that the West's continuing confrontational approach risks deepening the crisis over Iran's nuclear program. Listen in to what Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova had to say.
Пресловутый снэпбэк, вот та самая механика, тот самый механизм возврата санкций не может считаться состоявшимся. Утверждение об обратном – это преднамеренное искажение реальности, и добавить к этому по существу просто нечего, кроме крайней озабоченности в связи с продолжающейся конфронтационной линией Запада, которая, прикрываясь пустыми разговорами о своей приверженности дипломатии, международному праву, неправомерными действиями ведет к глубокому системному кризису вокруг иранской ядерной программы.
Shifting our focus